quite get an introduction to what Dave does to the crowd. So can you succinctly tell the audience what you guys do and for whom?
Yeah, absolutely. We are a challenger bank with the mission to put financial minds at ease. And we're doing that to greatly reduce the cost, usability, and accessibility of the legacy financial system in this country. We started out with an app that helped people avoid overdraft fees and improve their financial health with awesome personal financial management tools that really help you understand how much money you can spend between paychecks. We also have a product that helps people find work at additional companies, such as rideshare or food delivery. And so we're really this platform that helps people improve their financial situation. And we also have a checking account as well that people can sign up for and stop paying banking fees altogether.
That's awesome. So I want to go back to something we spoke about right off the bat, and that's the role of values for Dave. Can you talk about what role values do play for Dave and how they inform your management, the products, customer, and employee interactions? Can you talk about sort of how they're embedded in the fabric of the company?
Sure. It was very early on in the company. I think we were 6 months in, and we have our director of engineering who's incredibly passionate about values. We all knew that we had a great values-driven culture, but we didn't have anything written down necessarily. And this director, he has his own personal values actually tattooed on his arm. So he really wanted to see us take the next step of really putting this thing on, literally on the wall.
Did you get tattooed?
I have not gotten tattooed yet, but yeah, we did put it everywhere on the wall, and we did ingrain values everywhere from introducing it in our onboarding. We make it a part of our hiring process. After each interview, we have people, rate the candidate on how they would fit into those values. And each week at our all hands, we award somebody who is excelling at one of those values in particular. So it is in and around the company significantly.
I know you talked about being useful. I think that was one of the values. Can you be explicit about what the values are and share those with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one big one is to be helpful and decent. That one we think absolutely, given we're a product that's trying to help people out of their situation, we think that should carry itself throughout the rest of the organization. And everything from how we create product to how we treat our customers, that is, and how we treat each other, that's a really important tenet. Given my background as an entrepreneur, ever since I was 19, starting my own companies, I really wanted the entire company to embody being an innovative entrepreneur. I think that's been really something that helps us continuously come up with new innovative features. As we are David versus Goliath, and so the only way we can continue on that mission is really to be innovative in the space. We have resourcefulness. Ever since, again, back to my early days, making every dollar count, I think, is incredibly important. We see other companies that spend lavishly. Dave, our office, our headquarters is in a non-flashy part of town. There are no other companies around us. We really built the business on an island in an area that was significantly cheaper to build the company, and we thought that would give us a lot more longevity when it came to the cash we had in the company. One unique thing about our business is that we've never actually spent a penny of our venture capital we've raised. Every dollar is still in the business.
Wow.
We have, let's see, what else do we have here? And then we have, I'm forgetting right now.
Of course, you're on screen.
On the spot, but those are the primary ones we have at the business.
And how much do those values reflect your own personal values? How did you arrive at those values as sort of the company values?
Yeah, as said, I really want things that I truly believe in. And so, back to being an innovative entrepreneur, I really think that embodies myself and my co-founders. And that's something we really wanted the rest of the organization to think about. With regards to helpful and decent, we show up to work every day. We want to be around people who also consider themselves to be helpful and decent. And so that's been a really nice one to have at the company.
So, all hell's breaking loose. I'm not talking about it, Dave, in the world. COVID's coming on. There is a fear of chaos. There's a feeling of chaos. Um, you make the directive to get everybody to work from home. Did some of the changes, did they challenge some of the values you had at Dave?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of resourcefulness and being helpful and decent, when you see all this craziness happening in the world, it does make it more challenging. And so that's what we have to continue to drive forward. And that's why having that weekly all hands is something that's been critical to keeping the company together and to, you know, further our entrenchment of the values into the culture. You know, without just the consistent recognition of it, I think it can go by the wayside, and we see companies they can falter if they start to not either don't have values or are not able to consistently devote themselves to it.
So in those all hand meetings, is there time or questioning dedicated to talking about values and how that they should influence decision making or guide employees, things like that?
Yeah, so I mean, in that all hands, we have a mini award ceremony every week, and so we'll pick out at least one and potentially two Dave team members that are excelling, and then we will talk. Not only just give them an award, but we go over the description of exactly what it was that they did that show that they hit that value. And so it could be something as a support agent who has really gone above and beyond to help a customer and exactly what they did. And then we have Dave pins that we give to people. As cheesy as it may sound, it really is something special that people really want to achieve with the company. And we have several Daves who have racked up many pins throughout the last few years. So it's a special thing that really I think makes Dave a pretty unique place to work.
Interesting. So I want to also, I guess, look at the communication plan, I guess you had as everybody started to work from home. How did you guys communicate during the crisis to the employees? Did it change? I guess remotely, obviously the channels changed, but did also the tenor of and the messaging change during the crisis?
Well, for me, I mean, it changed quite a bit. I mean, I really, the way I like to do the all hands is to not necessarily take all the air out of the room. I want to have a different person at the company lead it each week, because I think it's important that we are all equity owners of the company. And so I think that, it shouldn't just be the CEO that's the one always taking the lead on all hands. And so, I think there had to be more visibility from myself during the first few weeks. And then, through all the, through the Black Lives Matter stuff, which was an incredible uncertainty, really getting on and talking to our team members and help keeping them calm through all of the craziness. It has been a whirlwind of back-to-back chaos in the country, and especially in Los Angeles, which is such a big city and is truly been affected by coronavirus.
Did you find, Jason, that you were communicating more frequently, less frequently during these first few weeks, or?
More frequently. I mean, absolutely. I mean, front and center, for the first couple of months of this, which is, again, something I'd like to really share the stage with my coworkers here. But I definitely had to be more present and resilient through this time than I ever have been.
And were there certain ways that you could see that your employees were looking for that from you? Like, were there signs, or I guess, or symbols of how they were looking for leadership to stand up and help guide the company during that time, particularly during this chaos?
Yeah, I think they're looking to all of the management team, and we feel really proud. I mean, through COVID and through Black Lives Matter as well. I mean, we were early on, and we hired a head of social impact that started the company back in January, and she's been incredibly helpful for the entire team to understand what it is to not only thrive and survive through this time, but also how to be impactful for our customers too. And I think that's what's really gotten everyone through this, is that we are a helpful business in itself. And so we need to be there for our customers as much as we need to be there for ourselves. And that's been a nice distraction for all of us during this time period.
Did you approach the crisis almost as like a project, like a crisis project? And I guess as a corollary to that, who led sort of, which individuals, which executives within the company kind of led or were guides throughout this process?
Well, we have a fantastic director of communications, Natalie, who's been great through this process, sending out lots of communications about the situation, keeping people abreast of all the updates, and making sure there's any news from the state, from from local officials, that news gets out to our team. But as far as it being a project, I mean, for me, who being on the road consistently, week in, week out, it's been pretty nice to be able to take investor meetings, over Zoom, not getting on a plane, and that sort of experiment that you can get things done over a video call as opposed to getting on a plane and staying in a hotel. I've been able to get a ton more focused work done versus wasting all that time on the road. And for what it's worth, I think now that this becomes a new normal, it's great for the environment that we don't have to be traveling every single day to go to these meetings and even go into the office.
That makes a lot of sense. We've heard from a lot of the speakers throughout this conference that they themselves and their companies, they feel are much more productive during this time period. Can you give specific examples of how your values and the values you laid out for us impacted decision-making throughout this process?
Values always plays a factor in all of our decisions. When it comes to being innovative or helpful, you can't just do those things in a vacuum. That's stuff that absolutely has to be worked on day in and day out and incorporated into every decision.
So can you give a specific example of how that happened? Like I know you worked with a lot of your clients to get them work. I know that you were hearing that from your clients, that they were losing their income, they were losing their jobs, whatever. And so it sounds like that one of those values to help the customers impacted your product set, or sort of the emphasis of your marketing also during this time period. Can you point to specific examples?
Well, we placed a heavier emphasis on our side hustle product through the crisis. And so side hustle is now seeing about 500,000 people per quarter are applying for additional work through that service, which has been incredible to see. We also did a lot of work to add work from home opportunities in that stuff as well. So things like, tutoring, things like taking surveys. I mean, something as simple as that has really been able to help people get by on a day-to-day basis, which has been great to see. That alone is something we think is innovative and helpful at the same time to our customers, and that's a good example of how we put that into action.
That makes sense.
We've additionally, just as far as the whole team structure, trying to move towards a remote first organization in general, we were quick to act. We had the head of remote from GitLab, which is the largest remote only workforce in the world. We had him come on and lead a guided discussion with our management team as we are trying to be innovative ourselves when it comes to the next phase of the company, because who knows how long this is going to last, and whether it goes away entirely. I think we want to make sure we're taking some key learnings away from this crisis that actually are beneficial to the company too.
Got it. So I want to now shift to away from maybe the employee interaction and talk more about customers. You mentioned surveys, you mentioned sort of the side hustle product. What were you hearing from customers? What are you hearing from customers? What are their biggest needs right now?
Well, surprisingly, with unemployment and with the stimulus check, a lot of our customers have never had this much money in their lives. And
Wow.
So we're helping them, with our true core product is what really helps people understand their bills and expenses until they get paid next. And so these money management tools are more crucial now than ever to make sure that now that they have the money, you can put it into a no-fee bank like Dave, and you can budget for these expenses, so you don't have to be at risk anymore from not having enough money.
That's really counterintuitive, Jason. We're talking about people, the fear factor, and some of the clients have never had this much money. So how are they learning from you guys about what to do with that money? Like, if they have a question about, I mean, is it clear to them where to go? Is there outbound communication? Is the product itself sort of guide them?
The product itself guides them. I mean, we've also done a lot of work on education through COVID. So we have our blog, which has been really impactful for communicating with our customers on, you know, how to apply for unemployment, how to make sure you can weather for an emergency, you know, what to do with your stimulus check to make sure that it lasts, you know, all things like that that are going to be important for keeping our customers' financial health at the best point possible.
Did they have specific questions also about the health of Dave? I assume, like, if there is fear, they want to make sure that you guys are going to be there to help continue to support them. Did they have like organizational or institutional questions as well?
Not necessarily. I mean, we really see it in our reviews and, you know, how much people think Dave is helpful. I mean, we have about 600,000 apps or reviews at this point. I think one of the most in the industry. And so that's been a really good feedback channel for us to communicate with customers. But no real questions around, you know, whether Dave will make it through this. I think people realize that, you know, Dave is a kind of a company that can thrive through this, given even like our side hustle products alone is something that's been so impactful and popular during the time period.
So let's look at Side Hustle. Can you tell us when you created Side Hustle, what was the thinking around it, and then maybe talk about some of the usage dynamics around it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we created the product back in October of 2018. And so the product has been around for, you know, getting closer to 2 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we created it was we had this early mantra at the company to do things that legacy banks would never do. And we didn't think that they would give you automated budgeting. We didn't think they would give you free cash to avoid an overdraft. And one thing we really thought was out of the box, we definitely did not think that they would help you find a job. That seemed to be quite unique. And through the data, we learned that, you know, our customers were utilizing rideshare as a way to make further money, but realized that the gig economy was a massive industry that was only going to be getting bigger. And yeah, how could one find and surface up all those opportunities of where to find that additional work? So we thought it'd be really unique to create a product inside the app that highlighted all those opportunities. And we have now close to 30 partners that we mix in and out that are various opportunities. And surprisingly, the larger companies are the least popular because they advertise the most. It's the ones that are more unique that you have not heard of that get incredible traction on a daily basis.
Did you find that it took a mind shift among your customers to think, wow, my bank is actually thinking about helping me find a job? Like, because as you said, that's not something a large institution would do, or at least they didn't feel that that's their role. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we love hearing that from our customers that, wow, my bank has never done anything like this for me. And they're actually here for me, and that I'm not just a number. This is a product that really cares about me. And you know, that's one of the reasons why we named the company Dave. It's supposed to be this friend or family member that's always there for you. And instead of having to call that physical person, now Dave is in your pocket and always there to help you. You know, there's also the larger message of Dave being, you know, David versus Goliath, but both kind of go hand in hand of this is something that's there for you.
So Side Hustle started 2018. Pandemic hits. What are you hearing from customers? Are their earnings dropping? Does Side Hustle evolve during this time period as well? Can you take us through some of that?
Yeah, Side Hustle evolved from really only, you know, out of home opportunities to work from home opportunities as well, and that allowed us to double the amount of opportunities that we had in the product, which has been really great to see. And as far as people's earnings, we're definitely seeing a big shift in people earning more money from Side Hustle. Obviously, as the amount of applications has skyrocketed, I mean, we're seeing more than 2x the amount of applications at this point than pre-COVID, as people are looking for additional work. It's you know, been really great to see the adoption of that. And as far as earnings, you know, we are seeing a pretty large reduction in people's earnings from their typical work, but they also are not spending nearly as much money as most of the economy was shut down. So we saw actually a greater sort of, net income from the customer at the end of all this, just given less places to go spend their money. And so yeah.
Do you imagine side hustle playing a bigger role going into the future as part of the Dave product set?
We see ways to work closer with all these employers that we have on that platform. I think, right now we make it very easy to apply for these opportunities, but we'd like to go further up the funnel and work more closely with the people that, just get more in the middle of that relationship. I think the more we can do that, the better we can really control and help people understand what money's coming in and when.
Do you plan on rolling out, I guess, ancillary products that also help customers make more money as opposed to just save it or invest it over time?
Potentially. I mean, we're looking at any way we can put money back in people's pockets. And, if you look at the $30 billion a year alone that people pay in overdraft fees, and then even beyond that with minimum account balance fees, we already are putting money back in people's pockets, and we feel really good about that. So then to go beyond that with side hustle, Dave is the only challenger banking product that's actually making money for people right now. And I think that's an important distinction.
Got it. How else are you working, Jason, with the customers during this period to help them out in whatever ways they need?
It's really education is what we've had to level up here over the last few months. We typically communicate really mostly about people's finances with our notifications, but that quickly changed to, talking about even things like mental health. I mean, we did a big partnership with Headspace to offer Headspace for free to our customers during this time period, and surprisingly, people were incredibly receptive to that. You don't necessarily think of Headspace as a product for someone that is overdrafting consistently would really care about, but having that financial mind at ease is really something that goes alongside meditation. And so it's another thing that you wouldn't see your main major bank partnering with a meditation app. And I think that's something cool that we did as a company.
Do you have, can you share a little bit about who your customers are, I guess, demographically, age, sort of who are these people?
They're spread around the major cities mostly, and the customer is younger. The most popular cohort is 22 years old, and 80% of the user base is under the age of 30. But the other 20% that's over 30, we see full families that use the product. So mom and dad are using it because their son who graduated college is using the product and thinks it's a great way to understand how much money you have to spend until you get paid next. And just the fact alone that Dave tells you your paycheck calendar is something that your bank doesn't do, and we think that's a really useful tool.
Jason, do you think we've reached some type of new normal? Like, are we going back to the old world, or is this like, are we in a new reality here?
I think we're in a new reality, to be honest. If we look at even just the legacy office, the way we're looking at our office space right now is we're calling it a Dave library. And while we're not even allowed to go there right now because of the state order, when things do open back up, that's how we envision that working. Is you used to think of the office as a place to go get work done, but really these sort of open office spaces that we've created in our culture now are quite distracting, and they've been, you get your most focused work done when you're on the phone commuting, from work, or on a train, or in a plane where they have these quiet workspaces. So for us, we're going to try and transition the office to this library where it's a quiet place to go get your best work done. As we realize that work from home for everybody, it's a challenge. I mean, if you have kids, if you live alone, that's not necessarily the most potentially productive place to get your best work done. So we realize that while offices will not go away in general, I think just how we use them is going to be pretty different. And then again, back to the business travel, I think that forever is going to be changed. And as far as our whole business in general, the shift to digital banking, we'll look back on this time period as that great shift. And you're no longer going to walk into a bank branch to open up a checking account at this point. It's all going to be done from your phone.
I guess, how has Dave as a business performed during this time period? I guess specifically from new users or usage point of view metrics.
We're doing better than ever right now. I mean, our numbers in July will be the best of the year. You know, at the height of COVID, we did see some impact there, as there's so much uncertainty, and that's where we saw that huge drop in consumer spending, because people were keeping as much cash as they could. And so with that, when you're as flush as you are ever in your life, you know, there's sometimes is less need to understand how low your balance will get until you get paid. You know, if you're not spending money, you're not going to get much lower. But we have seen, as the economy's opened back up, that shift has gone back to normal.
Interesting. And so if this is a new normal, how are you thinking about, as CEO of Dave, how are you thinking about new products and services going forward? Like, what are your biggest priorities?
Our biggest priority is just talking to customers right now and really figuring out what it is that they need to move the ball forward in their financial life. And so on that same vein as Side Hustle, we're thinking about products, again, that your bank would never do for you. And we have some exciting things we're working on, a couple major features that will be rolled out by early next year that we're super excited about.
Can we pan out a little bit? You define yourself as a challenger bank. How would you define Dave's differentiation against some of the other banks out there?
The big difference for Dave is that we start out with this sort of fluid relationship with the customer, and that you can come to Dave directly and open up a checking account. But the majority of our users come by connecting an existing account and utilizing our services. So you can come to us with a Chase account and utilize our overdraft product. You can utilize our financial management tools. You can use Side Hustle, and that's how we really establish that relationship with the customer, which is different than the other challengers, where it's all about come here, set up your direct deposit, make us your primary bank, and to us that's a big ask. And while I think it's inevitably possible, we think having that bifurcated approach to bank with us now or try us out is really the big differentiator in how we've gotten to 7 million users.
So can we just drill down a little bit there? Can you explain that, I guess, a little bit more slowly? I didn't quite get it. So talk about that initial sort of the bifurcation, the fact that you've obviated the need to just, you're not going straight for the customer to open an account. Can you just talk about that process?
Well, you can. You can come to us directly and open an account, but we see users, because we offer the ability to say, hey, do you want to just connect an existing account and start using Dave right away? And we find that sort of fluidity is what really sets us apart, because you can't go to another challenger bank and connect an existing account and utilize their features. You have to set up direct deposit or start funding those accounts to get any kind of value. Whereas at Dave, you can get value literally within seconds by connecting an existing account. And that is a highly differentiated way that we interact with consumers.
So do you see yourself competing against the traditional incumbents?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We really do. We think that they're the ones that have the 240 million customers in this country. And we think that to get them to switch their primary bank relationship over is not the easiest fight in the world. And we think that going from a Facebook ad on here's this new bank, we think is a challenging proposition that is going to get only more expensive over time. And so what Dave has done differently is say, hey, we realize you bank somewhere else, and that's okay. But why don't you connect that account, and we're going to show you why we're better. And that's a real different way that we've approached that sort of pre-customer relationship building.
So I guess from you sort of answered it just now, but I just want to ask it a little bit differently. So to convert a customer that has an account at an incumbent, what do you feel are some of the biggest hurdles that Dave needs to go over to get them comfortable to using Dave?
It's really showing them the data and providing those services. So we can tell somebody exactly when they're getting hit with an overdraft fee at their bank. We can warn them about an upcoming fee. The way Dave works is we tell you about all your bills and expenses until you get paid next, and we can send you these intelligent notifications about those bills. And when people see that they're getting hit with 30 up to potentially $100 in a day of overdraft with their bank, that's a great opportunity to say, hey, we have a no fee account here that you can open up right here and now. And that conversion rate is about 50% of people that we invite from that notification. So it is a great way to, again, establish that relationship. Same thing with side hustle as well. When people realize, wow, this company is really here for me, that's another great way to get someone to be interested in a longer term relationship.
I'm curious now, with your entrepreneur hat on, taking a more macro look. How do you see this all playing out? So we've got 10,000 financial institutions, incumbents. We've got a lot of domestic players now. We've got international players, challengers coming to the U.S. Do you see consolidation happening? Is there room for all these players? Like, how do you see this all playing out?
Well, there, as you said, 10,000 financial institutions in this country, and every one of them is able to seemingly make some kind of a dent and be there for their customers. I do, though, think in this digital kind of divide that we're going to see, definite consolidation or some clear winners in the space. And to me, I think at this point, to compete, really, you have to have some kind of significant scale, or at least some heavy differentiator to actually make it in this challenger space. And so I think the incumbents are going to continue to go to war with spending on R&D and getting into more technology. Mm-hmm. And for the fintechs, it's really a race to add that value and have that clear value prop that the big banks will not be able to catch up to. And so, I think there's going to be some clear winners, and probably no more than 5 when it comes to the challenger race.
Got it. Tend to agree with you as well. You ready to take a question from the crowd?
Sure.
Great. Hey, Shuman,
Hello.
Can you introduce yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, so Shuman Bhattacharya. I'm a writer and editor of Tearsheet. I have been reading and writing about earned wage access platforms, and I was wondering, I'd read that to access the earned wage access offering, you have to have a regular paycheck. But as more people got laid off and were pursuing gig work, are you thinking about how people who perhaps get paid less regularly could access that product too?
Yes, even pre-COVID, we are able to, as long as we can predict some type of regular income, even if it's inconsistent, Dave is able to give you some type of access to the product. Okay, great. And any thoughts on, any thoughts on the new rules for the loosen payday lender regulations, and perhaps have you all been talking about perhaps how to get the message out to customers who would otherwise pursue payday loans, especially as they're going to be more easily available? We don't necessarily think of our customers as that payday loan crowd. I mean, given that this is a younger user base, a 22-year-old is generally not walking down to a corner store to take out an expensive payday loan. We think of ourselves, very differently, in that this is really about preventing against overdraft and being able to go buy everyday essentials like a gas or groceries. I mean, Dave purposely gives users a smaller amount of money than you would see in a typical payday, because the product is so different. People use Dave to go buy gas. They go to buy dinner for their family. They use it to go out to buy a one-off entertainment thing like going to the movies. It is a very different way to think about it, even though we fall under some of the same regulation. Thank you. Sure. Thanks, Simon.
Great. And Jason, with that, I think I'm out of questions, and it was wonderful to chat with you during Tearsheet's Resilience Conference. Wonderful to learn more about Dave and hear how you guys navigated through all this.
Hey, thanks a lot, Zach. I appreciate the time.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
So, goodbye. We will take a quick bio break, everyone, and return here in about 5 minutes. So we'll catch you soon.